Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Horror Mine. My name is Vic Shy, and this is the Scare Score, where I break down horror movies and rate them on how scary I think they are. In this episode, I'll be going over the 2014 Japanese horror film, Hair Extension, not to be confused like I was with the 2007 Japanese horror film X-Day Hair Extensions, which I will cover on the channel next month. I'll be going over the events that take place throughout the film while rating the scares on how scary they are or attempt to be. Hair Extension is a self-aware, low-budget horror film that doesn't take itself too seriously, but how scary is it? Sit back and relax and join me as we explore Hair Extension and tally up the Scare Score. Our movie begins in the most common horror movie setting, the bathroom. Two young girls, Mitsuki and Kasumi, are gushing about Kasumi's new hair extensions. Mitsuki notices that the roots of her extensions have oddly turned white. She then hears a very creepy voice saying, "Give it back to me." The strange voice says it once more, and both girls hear it this time. The bathroom stall slowly opens, and a spirit suddenly appears before the opening credits. This was a decently creepy, standard opening scene that establishes the low-budgetness of this film. It gives the movie a pretty distinct campy feel that I won't fault it too much for. The movie obviously pokes fun at the Japanese horror movie genre, and I think it can be good to laugh at our own expense sometimes. Japanese horror films have pale, ghostly women with long black hair. I have no dad. It's okay to laugh at ourselves sometimes. The intro has a pretty unsettling feel to it that is somehow enhanced by the low-budget nature. It looks cheap as hell, but somehow unnerving. We meet our main character, Mami, a young woman working at a hair salon. She gets complimented by a customer for her long and luscious hair. I've made jokes about it before, but the glaze she receives literally made it seem like I was watching the intro to a Japanese porn. Mitsuki is questioned by a man about Kasumi's hair extension and has lost her mind from the incident. Mami's manager, Sagawa, sends her to pick up more hair extensions from their usual dealer named Mr. Aizawa. She goes to a very odd and suspicious place, very similar to the place where I get all my jokes from. She goes inside and we see several papers marked with the same seal that were in the hair salon. She meets Mr. Aizawa and he gives her a wooden box containing the hair extension. She opens the box and looks mesmerized by what she sees. Aizawa gives her a small sample of hair and watches her leave with a sinister look on his face. She encounters the man from earlier in the hall and he tries to warn her about the hair extensions. We then see the same strange seal in his notepad. Mami returns with the hair extensions that they immediately show to a woman named Reiko. Just like Mami did earlier, Reiko looks mesmerized by the hair extensions and gets them put in. As Reiko leaves the store, the same man from earlier follows behind her. That night, Mami decides to put the hair extension sample in her hair. After she puts them in, we see a blurry shot of Aizawa cutting someone's hair. Mami wakes up from the dream and we see a spirit in the mirror next to her. This is a decent scare scene with a mildly creepy atmosphere. The ghost in the mirror doesn't look great, but it definitely works for what the movie's working with. Mami is obsessed with her hair extension and her roommate Shiho says she's scared of getting them. She doesn't know who the hair previously belonged to and heard an urban legend about them. Mami tells Shiho that she is going to start cutting hair and asks her to be her model. I wonder why she didn't ask me. Reiko owns her own bar and is visited by the man named Matsuo, her customer from a previous bar. We learn that Kasumi was his daughter and he has been investigating the salon after her death. He describes his daughter's death and says her hair was pulled out and cut. He then sees the same discoloration in Reiko's hair that Kasumi had before she died. Mami starts learning how to cut hair and the manager shows Shiho the hair extensions. Although she was against getting them before, she instantly becomes mesmerized by them and wants to put them in. She looks good with them on, but not as good as me. Mami looks at Shiho and seems suspicious at the reaction of her new look. Reiko looks at herself in the mirror and all her hair extensions are now gray. She then hears the voice saying, "Give it back to me," before ghostly hands slowly wrap around her face. This was an effective scare scene, especially when the spirit briefly appeared behind Reiko. It isn't anything groundbreaking, but I appreciate that the movie doesn't use overly dramatic sound effects during the scares. It would be very easy to fall into that trap, especially with the small budget. Although I spoke a little too soon because it happens in the very next scene as Mami sees handprints on the mirror. She wipes them off and sees someone in the mirror behind her, but when she turns around, there's no one there! She gets a call from her manager letting her know that Reiko is dead. Matsuo then walks past Aizawa in the street. They speak to Reiko's brother, who thinks that loan sharks may have killed his sister. He then shows them the gruesome aftermath. Mami meets with Mr. Matsuo, who tells her about the strange deaths involving the hair extensions. She shows him her own extension, but it has no discoloration. She then realizes that Shiho may be in danger. She rushes back to the apartment and gets jump scared by the spirit, who will call
Sash ringing! This is the Flash singing! The
hair extension spirit. She sees discoloration in Shiho's hair and tries cutting the extensions out. Trying to cut them causes her pain and she is unable to do it. Matsuo sneaks into Aizawa's apartment and confronts him. He blames him for his daughter's death and gives him a punch worthy of WWE. We see a flashback of manager Sagawa seemingly obsessed over a young woman's hair. She closes the shop and walks off with the woman. Aizawa shows up looking for her and follows the two before the flashback ends. Back in the present, Shiho feels hopeless about her hairy situation. She's also been having strange dreams about someone cutting her hair off with scissors. They turn on the lights and Shiho sees the hair extension spirit in front of her. The spirit slowly approaches her and Shiho takes off running into the street. Mami goes running after her and neither of them are running very fast. Shiho runs straight into the spirit, who then rips out her hair to her death. Mami finds Shiho's dead body and sees the spirit holding her scalp. The spirit looks back at her and Mami screams in horror. Y'all already know how bad copyright can get covering Japanese films, so I'm gonna have to do a dub on this one. Mami cries over her friend's dead body at the morgue. Aizawa suddenly appears and cuts off a piece of the hair extension before Mami shoves him out of the way. A truly moving scene that should earn both of them the Academy Award for Best Actor and Actress, respectively. Mami goes back to the salon and another spirit can be seen in the mirror behind her. She tries contacting the manager but can't get a hold of her. That's because she's in Aizawa's apartment freaking out about the recent deaths caused by their hair extensions. The two have been working together to give women the cursed hair extensions, but it doesn't seem like the manager knew what would happen. The lights start flickering and Aizawa knocks her out. He holds up the paper seal and the hair extension spirit appears right behind her. We then get a flashback that explains the origin of the deadly curse, which doesn't have the payoff I was hoping for. Manager Sagawa lured the young woman from earlier and tied her up. She was obsessed with the woman's beautiful hair and decided to cut it off for profit. She literally scalped the poor woman whose name was Ayame. Aizawa walked in on the incident as he was looking for Ayame, who was his girlfriend. Now this is where things get pretty ridiculous. Aizawa wrestled the scissors out of Sagawa's hands and accidentally fell on top of his girlfriend, jabbing her in the neck. Ayame died and turned into the hair extension spirit. Aizawa and Sagawa then went into business together to sell extensions of Ayame's hair for some reason. Now, whoever wears the hair extension is haunted and eventually killed by Ayame's spirit. The entire flashback scene is so silly. Aizawa and Sagawa working together after Ayame's accidental death makes no sense and makes the curse way less interesting. Matsuo links back up with Mami and tells her the new information he discovered. The strange symbol belongs to a clan where women are born with sacred, beautiful hair. Aizawa and Ayame were from that community, hence her beautiful, luscious hair. Aizawa uses the clan symbol as a charm to appease Ayame's spirit. It's likely that he is using Sagawa to spread Ayame's curse to kill women who want beautiful hair. He most likely feels guilty about her death and is dishing out revenge on her behalf, which seems really convoluted. Matsuo believes that Ayame's spirit is looking for her missing hair. He also thinks that his daughter and Shiho may also turn into vengeful spirits. He then hears his daughter's voice calling out to him and briefly sees her in the rearview mirror. They sneak into Aizawa's apartment and find Ayame's dead body in the back room. Matsuo suddenly gets pulled to the ground by Ayame's spirit and he tells her to return the hair, not the slab. Manager Sagawa suddenly grabs Mami's ankle and begs for help. Matsuo pulls her off of Mami and Sagawa is consumed by Ayame's spirit. Mami returns the hair and Ayame briefly appears human again. Mami wakes back up and Ayame's body is no longer there. Matsuo drives Mami home and the curse is seemingly over. Mami returns to her apartment and feels a sharp pain in her head. As Matsuo drives away, he remembers seeing his daughter's spirit in Mami's hair asking for help. It's an odd scene because he didn't have any reaction to it earlier. Mami's sharp headache is accompanied by a first-person vision of Aizawa cutting Kasumi's hair and Matsuo crying over her dead body. She looks into the mirror and sees that her hair extension is now gray. It turns out that the hair sample Aizawa gave her was actually from Kasumi's hair and a new curse has been born. We then see a brief flashback of Ayame telling Mami that she returned the wrong hair. Mami sees a handprint bruise on her arm and the lights go out. Kasumi's vengeful spirit appears and looks way more horrifying than Ayame.
Christ.
Matsuo rushes to Mami's apartment and tries to save her from his daughter's spirit. Kasumi slowly approaches Mami and viciously starts pulling on her head. This is a really good scare scene and, spoiler alert, the scariest one of the entire film. They saved the best for last, I guess. Kasumi's spirit looks absolutely horrifying and has a really cool design. Mami's death scene is also the most vicious, which is what makes it so scary. I'm also going to give retroactive points because Kasumi's spirit is who we saw in the mirror earlier, meaning Mami was being haunted by her the entire time. It then cuts to Matsuo crying over Mami's death as he was unable to save her. Aizawa appears and reveals that he only gave Kasumi's hair to Mami. Matsuo asks him to return Kasumi's remaining hair and Aizawa says both she and Ayame can now rest in peace. However, he still plans on carrying out his evil agenda with Matsuo's help. Matsuo agrees to help because that's what the screenwriters decided for some reason. In the film's final scene, a traumatized Matsuo cuts a piece of hair from Mami's dead body as the movie ends. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was hair extension. My friends, the first 5 minutes of this film didn't have me too optimistic for the rest of the 1 hour runtime, but I ended up enjoying it. It isn't a great film, but it's a pretty short and enjoyable watch, especially given what they had to work with. It's clearly a low-budget film that wasn't taking itself too seriously. The campiness can be off-putting at times, but it made me laugh in a good way. On the flip side, I wasn't a fan of the story and how things unfold towards the end. They could have spent a little more time on the writing room floor for this one. But the burning question is, how scary is it? The film has a creepy atmosphere that the low budget actually enhances. Some of the effects look a little wonky, which made some of the scare scenes look straight up odd, but I see what they were going for. With what they had to work with, the film does a decent job and has a couple of good scares here and there, but it's just not enough to be really scary overall, earning hair extension a not so great scare score of 35%. I've already spoiled it, but the scariest scene in the film is Mami's death at the hands of Kasumi's spirit. The design of Kasumi's vengeful ghost is awesome and pretty unnerving to look at. Mami's brutal death was unexpected, especially because every other death happens off screen. It's a good way to end the movie and really ups the scare score right at the very end. There's no audience scare score this week because of how busy I've been and I only had 1 day to work on this episode, which is also why it was on the shorter end. My schedule should be smoothing out after this week and we'll be back on track and finish out the year strong. Big shout out to our newest Golden Kayako member, Bengis. Also, thank you to the rest of the Golden Kayako Club and all our channel members for your continued support. But as always, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Thank you all for tuning in and I cannot wait to see y'all right back here in the Horror Mine. Y'all stick around.